Good afternoon and welcome to the Alex Urbina radio show. We are broadcasting live from Newhall, California, right here in your hometown station, KHTS. And today we're talking about heartfelt leadership. And my guest on the show today is Dina Cervantes. Thank you, Dina, for being here. I appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you so much for having me. Yes,
absolutely.
I'm glad to be here.
Dina is... You're part of my tribe.
I am part of your tribe.
What I mean by that is we both have had similar transformational training experience. We both had what I would call an awakening.
Yes.
I would say that it's safe enough for me to say that, currently, probably in the last 5 to 8 years, I'm on this spiritual awakening. Yeah. But the awakening I was talking about back when in my early 20s was more just of a conscious awakening.
Yes.
More of a self-awareness kind of realization that I'm actually in control of my own thoughts, choices, and all of those kinds of things, which was such a beautiful awakening that changed my life and the course that I went on forever.
Right.
And one of the greatest things that I learned in that awakening, one of my mentors taught me about vision, and I was introduced to something called leadership. Mm-hmm. And there's something amazing about having an awakening and discovering your heart for the very first time and being taught leadership at the same time.
Right.
There's this thing called heartfelt leadership, which is distinctively different than just the mindful leadership or the egoic leadership, where there's certain leaders on the planet that lead more from their head. Maybe because they haven't either been taught how to tap into their heart or they just never had that experience. But a lot of it is up here in their head. And I experience it as being more fearful leadership rather than the finding and discovering the true wisdom in our heart or our spirit that guides us, that gives us the truth about the leadership development and going down that path. So tell me a little bit about your story and your awakening and having that first wake-up call. What did it feel like?
Yeah, so absolutely. We are definitely part of the same tribe. I think it's interesting. It's one thing I heard you say right now, it's like shifting from leadership that's sometimes based on who we think we need to be versus who we who we were made to be, right? And for myself, I always tell people my intention is I'm an open, honest, powerful, loving leader. So I check in with that to ground myself in everything I get to do in life, right? In regards to leadership, am I coming from that place? Am I being loving? Am I being powerful? Am I stepping into being honest and open with people?
And that inner dialogue, not everyone discovers that. Not everyone develops that checking in with self. Yeah. I think a lot of people, until you've had an awakening, there's no check-in. You're just like on this automatic pilot operating from these assumptions and these beliefs you've made, but you're never really checking in and double-checking and that kind of stuff, which doesn't make you really self-aware.
Right. And for me, it was 10 years ago. 10 years ago was when I had my I would say, the awakening moment of who do I want to be as a leader? Because I've been in leadership now for about 18 years, let's just say. And about 18 years ago, I actually had my first awakening where before I was very unconscious and I thought that my voice didn't matter, that my contributions didn't matter. And it happened for me because I became, because I became angry. I became angry at what was happening when I was a community college student, and I got really angry with Governor Gray Davis. I never met him, by the way. But I really got angry with him because he was proposing these cuts to higher education that were affecting us. And I thought, well, these affecting working class people and people of color, it was just an injustice that I saw. So for me, I would say my leadership awakening and finding myself and finding my voice started 18 years ago. But really finding out a different level of leadership was about 10 years ago for me, where then I started to really check in with myself and who I was being as a leader, right? And that's what fully changed for me, because I could then really make a different decision if I was doing something, because I thought that that's what people wanted versus what I thought that was needed at the moment. So it changed, I would say, how I chose to serve, if that makes sense.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And as you're talking, I'm thinking to myself, even the words coming out of your mouth where you're chronicling that moment where you felt probably powerless because there were changes being made, and then you took your anger and projected it towards a certain person.
Right.
But then later on, through your awakening, you realize it's not really him that I'm mad at. I'm mad because I can see that it doesn't have to be that way.
Right.
And then shifting into learning how to take responsibility
100%.
for making the difference. And then it shifted from being the victim and blaming somebody into, well, then I'm just gonna figure out how to cause the change that I want.
Yeah,
right.
And then that's why I say, and then I was angry with Governor Gray Davis, and now in retrospect, right, I always tell people, well, now I get to be grateful for him,
absolutely,
right?
for sure,
because he was. And of course,
and that's a choice, by the way,
right?
A conscious choice you're making.
It is a conscious choice to say, you know what, I'm actually in gratitude because that was the time period in life that shifted my life. I used to be a preschool teacher, and that was my profession for about 7 years up until that moment where things shifted for me into knowing that I got to be responsible for the political process, that I also got to be, so not only, was this happening in the early 2000s, and we were experiencing it, and I was very much in a victim place, and I'm feeling really angry with this man, right? Obviously knowing there's a lot of other people that were in play there, but my anger was channeled to a person, right, at that moment. And then realizing that one, I had a voice. I had a place in contribution to be part of, protesting and being active and lobbying and doing all the work that we did. We actually organized a march in 2002 with 15,000 students at the state capitol the following year. I think 12 or 13,000, and finding my way and my voice and my, my value. I would say even my value. And then also the responsibility that I had to be a contributor, that it was also on me. Because if I'm not part of the process, then
you're just complaining.
Yeah, exactly. then I'm just complaining.
And something happens to you when you're in that process. And I got to be honest with you, I've never been to a rally before, but I can imagine.
Oh my God,
I can imagine.
amazing.
I can imagine it changes you because you're part of either some kind of a movement or making a statement. But it's not just you; it's one loud voice of a collective consciousness, right?
100%. And I would say there are 4 actually in my life that I would say will forever have changed me, right? But in 2000, I think I was 9 or 7. I got to lead a march of like over 6,000 students.
Nice.
To the state capitol, and it's one of those feelings where that people have power. We really do. When we work together, when we are collective, when we can get over our differences, we can really shift and make a difference. And at that time, we were protesting the fee increases to higher education, both at the community college level, at the CSU and UC. And I'm really happy to say that we were part of freezing the fees because we were able to get over our differences and focus on what was collective for all of us. And so yeah, it's being at a rally and being part of a movement like that. It's like a high, right? It really is. It's amazing. And this is, people power is real.
I get it. Later at the end of the show, I want to hear about this amazing journey you're on, and we're going to talk about that. I want to get back to the heartfelt leadership. When I was thinking about this concept and the topic, I just started writing. I just got in the zone. I started writing down some of the bullet points of the things that I've learned, things I've discovered or watched some of my mentors and the people that admire me that are displaying heartfelt leadership, and just wrote down some character traits. And I want to just go through them with you, and we'll just toss them up in the air and just have fun with them. How's that sound? Okay. So number 1, I wrote down authentic or authenticity, being able to reveal more deeply of oneself, and courageously opening up and sharing with the intention to inspire those who might need it. You have to really be revealing of yourself. You got to kind of tell on yourself, and you got to not be afraid of what people are going to think about you, but just share the honest, upfront thing so that later on no one goes, well, you never shared that with us. Got to be transparent and go, hey, I made mistakes too, or whatever it is. It's like you got to raise your hand and just go, this is it. This is all I am,
this
right?
This is what you're getting. This is what you get.
Yeah.
No, so 100%. One thing I've learned, authenticity creates permission. I think at the end of the day, we're all human, right? We all have, like my mom would say, cola que nos pisan. We all have a tail that someone can step on, right?
But even though we're all human, a lot of us pretend not to be human, and I think that's the unconscious part of humanity is that we're trying to pretend like we're perfect or we're the best instead of No, we all make mistakes and we're all human.
And then have you also noticed though how thirsty people are for authenticity? I people, I don't know. So I strive to be authentic. So part of what I said, it's like I look at being an open, honest leader. So open means for me being authentic about my experience.
Right.
So, actually it's funny you say that. Just yesterday, on social media, I shared a post. So yesterday was the 4-year anniversary it was my baby's 4th birthday. I lost a baby 4 years ago. And I talk about that experience. I know that for many people, it's very uncomfortable to talk about child loss. And even though we've experienced it, so many of us have experienced it, not just women, but also men, obviously, right? And it's an uncomfortable topic, but I talk about it all the time because it's real. And it's also where I'm at, that I have not forgotten my daughter. And not talking about her means that she went away. I live with that experience every single day. And I also know that it's part of authenticity is part of healing. So I talk about that because I know that we get to go there. And every time I do talk about it, I have also women who will privately share with me, and even men, let me take that back, also men privately share with me, we also had a loss. This was my experience. Thank you for sharing it. Thank you for being honest. Because I know that we get to go there. We Absolutely. Get to get really uncomfortable and talk about what's real and say, I'm a human. I'm not perfect. Yes, I have many things that are amazing about me, but I also have some that could use some work.
Yeah.
Right?
And you absolutely, by being authentic, you attract other people that see the goodness in that, whether they're being it themselves. Yeah. There's a whole mass of consciousness that are of people that are awakening, going, "Ooh, I like that." I might not necessarily know what that is, but that just hooked me. And I think you used the word thirsty.
Yeah,
there are a lot of people that are thirsty out there, and I think those are the ones that are really satisfied when somebody just finally is just real.
Yeah,
we appreciate real people rather than just a lot of the stuff that people come up with. Saying the things that they think you need to hear. And the ones that are authentic and have had that awakening, you can see it.
Right.
You can see the inauthenticity. You can feel it. You can experience when someone's being inauthentic, when you start to be more open and honest and revealing yourself.
And I think that that's one of the things that's been hard about social media, right? As we've transitioned into a whole new world, right? For some of us who are a little bit older, is that, we want to post all the things that are pretty. And I don't know, I made a commitment to myself that I would try to be balanced, right, in sharing like the reality of what is life, right? Because I think we do a disservice when we continue to see just things that look good and people start to live in comparison, right? That person's life is great. That person has a brand new car, is married, has kids, has all of these things, and I don't.
Which 95% of it is portrayed, but it's not necessarily real, right? Like you see those memes of people walking up to a Ferrari and they take that picture and they post it as it's theirs, or go on that vacation that they weren't even on the vacation. But what would it look like if I could just show you that, hey, I'm at the DMV right now. I don't have makeup. My hair's in a scrunchie, and this is my day, right? Yep. Just showing what's really happening.
Yeah, and that's one thing. So I've learned that, and I've been committed to. As much as I can, because I'm also human, right? I'm like to be authentic.
Yeah.
To be authentic and to share what's not so great.
That's right.
Yeah.
Number 2, I wrote down secure. You really have to be secure. And what does that mean? To me, it means you have to feel secure in who you are, that you feel no need to hurt anyone with your words or actions. And this security sort of frees you up to be fully in service to others.
Yeah.
And really having an ability to just know who you are. You don't have to play games. It frees you up to just really be fully in service and helping others, because there's nothing you're trying to get from anybody, right?
Right. What I want to share is that I believe secure is a journey.
Absolutely.
Right?
It's not you don't ever get there.
No, right. Exactly. And
the destination just keeps sliding further down the closer you get to it.
Secure is a journey, like knowing that I don't need to be in competition with you.
That's right.
That, who I am and what I bring to the table is more than enough.
But that awareness shows up in the journey a little further on down the road.
Yes.
But that awareness is, oh my God, I am enough, and what I have is enough, and I don't have to compete with you, really.
Or
I don't have to tear you down or put you down, because I honor who you are and the journey that you're on. Right?
And one of the things I always talk about, especially with women and younger women, I talk about this whole notion of comparison, that we do not need to compare ourselves to anybody else, right? And actually, they say like comparison is the biggest thief of joy. Right? When I live and I look at what you're doing versus, and then use that to judge myself or to put myself in a place of less, then it's the worst thing I can really do to myself. Right? So again, it's a journey. So as much as I can, I try to check myself.
It's a
right?
It's a practice. It's a constant regulatory practice every single day, all day long.
Yep. Yeah. That I get to really check in with. Am I being fair to myself? I even look at that, like, am I being fair to myself with comparing myself to somebody else when we didn't come from the same place? We didn't have the same education. We don't have the same background. We may not look the same. So how is that even fair that I would use somebody else's, model to compare to this model?
And that checking in with yourself, that dialogue is so beautiful. I love the inner dialogue that we get, that we've been introduced to, that we get to go, Alex, stop it. Mm-hmm. There you go again, judging, complaining, whatever it is. I get to go stop it. I get to be my own coach at times and just self-regulate.
Yeah, totally.
Or hey, there you go, beating yourself up again.
Is that serving you?
Yeah.
Does that support you?
No, it's not. Okay, great. Let it go or whatever. So those are the things I think that come with just being aware. That development of really developing a sense of security of I am who I am. I love and accept who I am, especially in every level in the process of this journey. And then I get to honor everyone else in their process and their journey. So I don't need to put them down to make me feel better. I don't need to point out what they're doing that's wrong to make me be right, and those kinds of things.
Right.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, we're going to take
100%.
Take a short break. When we come back from the break, we'll talk more about heartfelt leadership right here in your hometown station, KHTS.
Healthcare can be difficult if you're underinsured or have Medi-Cal. Samuel Dixon Family Health Center can help. Services are available on a sliding fee schedule. The mission of the Samuel Dixon Family Health Center is to give the Santa Clarita Valley access to affordable, quality primary care. There are 3 locations to serve you: Canyon Country, Newhall, and Valverde. Go to sdfhc.org for more information and to find the location most convenient for you.
Marston's Restaurant has been a Pasadena landmark, voted the best breakfast in California by the Food Network magazine. Discover Marston's Santa Clarita location, open for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Marston's also has a fantastic catering menu that adds a delicious twist to any event. And they cater picnic dinners for that memorable romantic date. Experience Marston's on Newhall Ranch Road and McBean, or log on to marstonsrestaurant.com.
Have you ever been in the middle of cooking on your barbecue and ran out of propane? It can be so frustrating. Don't ever run out of propane again. Call Plumbing by Kirk to set up your free estimate to find out if your barbecue can be retrofitted to hook up to natural gas. Plumbing by Kirk can assess your situation for options to hook up your natural gas line so that you'll never run out of gas in the middle of cooking again. Give us a call, 263-6519, 263-6519, or go online at plumbingbyKirk.com.
My dad is the best plumber ever. Call Plumbing by Kirk.
Hometown, your hometown station.
And welcome back to the Alex Urbina radio show, right here in your hometown station, KHTS. I'm in studio with Dina Cervantes, and we're talking about heartfelt leadership. Before we went on a break, we talked a little bit about being authentic. We talked about really developing the self-security in who you are and being secure in yourself as a heartfelt leader. The next thing I want to point out is being connected. To me, when you're connected, you feel connected to people, and they feel connected to you. They feel safe. They feel secure around you, such that they open up to you more than usual. Yep. And when you're really connected to people, it's almost like this. It's this energy between you and them that really communicates, I trust you. It's like, I see you. I am here. I'm validated. And so therefore I trust you. And then all of a sudden it's a whole new level of communicating. Yep. That to me is so beautiful. And when I develop that kind of connection, I walk away feeling so grateful that we shared a little deeper than the comment, hey, hello, how are you? I'm fine. You know, you get to know people more when you're connected.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, one of the things that I will say has been my biggest, revelation in connection has been about meeting people where they're at. You know, it's really learning. Obviously, we all have our own journeys, right? And it's learning to listen, to understand, not listen to respond, right? And learning to meet people where they're at. And going back to what you said, being able to be authentic so that we can actually create connections. Like, I would say I've never been a person who's been good at working a room, right? Like, let me just get in there, not worry, do this thing. And I've much more enjoyed if I connected and was in a room and connected with 3 to 4 people, but authentically that left there with an actual like understanding of who they were, and for them too to have an understanding of who I am. I've always seen that as like gold for me.
Yep.
Like seriously gold, because I think that that's where we, where we get to start. And it's so easy to live in facade, right? We were just kind of talking about this a little earlier, where social media kind of shows you a facade, right? And I always go back to, I think as humans, we're just so thirsty for authenticity that we get to, show up and try to connect at that level. Like, this is who I really am, flaws and all. This is who I really am. Greatness and all, right? I'll own all of it. But we really get to go there so we can create those honest interactions with folks and people really feel heard, understood, and are validated.
Yeah. You talked a little bit about meeting people where they are and being a great listener. I feel like when you're truly connected, that little voice in your head that's trying to listen from trying to fix or what to say next, it actually goes away. And then you're not thinking about what to tell the person or what you're going to say next, because you're hanging on to every word that they're saying from more of a compassionate place, more listening from seeking to understand where they are. And if you've ever been in a conversation with someone like that, as soon as they're done talking, you kind of have to snap out of this trance and then think of what you're going to say. A lot of times if you're in a conversation with someone and they're not really connected with you in that present moment, as soon as the last word you're done saying, they already are stepping on. And that gives you the feeling like, man, I don't even think you were listening to what I said because there was no pause.
Right.
It didn't like land on you with a moment of silence. And sometimes when you're just in the present moment and you're connected, you listen, and when they're done speaking, there is that awkward amount of silence because you're letting it just land on you, and then it's kind of like, I'm going to swim in this. Thank you for sharing what you just shared with me. And then now I'll think of a response. So it's a little bit more delayed, but it's really enriched. It's an rich feeling of really being connected to somebody.
Yeah, no, I totally hear you. And I think so many people, I think we've all felt that frustration, right? Where we feel like we actually weren't heard, right? I would say one of the tricks of the trade that I try to implement as much as possible is sometimes even repeating that. So what I heard you say, right? So that I'm actually even clear, especially sometimes if I'm not fully clear, I'm like, what I heard you say was, this, right? And to try to really create that connection with someone that I'm trying to listen, and maybe I may have missed it, but here also what I thought I heard you say was this.
Yeah, that's a great tool to let people know that you were committed in your listening, and that you did had developed a connection with them. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
All right, the next one's going to be present. And it's funny because a lot of these, they interweave with each other, right? I think as a heartfelt leader, you really have to learn how to master the ability of really being present in the moment more often than not. And the reason why I say more often than not is because it's still a constant work for me. It's still a constant every day, all day long, minute to minute, moment by moment, where I'm calling myself on, all right, Alex, be here now. Now is all that exists. Right. Be present. And so for me, being present is like when you're present, you feel like when people are sharing, you get lost in them. You get lost in their story, in their struggle. And then nothing else matters more than anything else other than allowing them to be heard and validated that what they're saying is important to you.
Yeah.
And it's done all through nonverbal responses back. It's more of a gesture, it's more of a feeling that they get, right?
And I would even say the it's a choice, right? It's also a choice. So now going back to, the gift of internal dialogue where you're like, all right, am I being here? Am I not? Right? That you can kind of check in with yourself. And, I had a mentor, her name was Margot, that I was the leader of, some of the work that we've gotten to do. But I would tell her that the biggest gift I've gotten was learning to be present and learning to choose to cut the noise out so that I can be focused with the person that I was with, right? And with the experience that I was with my family, with my nieces. And, I shared a little bit about my baby a little bit ago. She was with me for 2 hours. I got to experience her life for 2 hours. And I remember that as I was going through, it was like a 48-hour period where, I was going through my loss. But for the 2 hours that she was with me, I really had the frame of mind to be able to say, be present. Like, I didn't know how long she would be with me.
Right.
But I just remember telling myself, be present. There was all this noise, a lot of noise that was happening around me, that I was like, just be present. And that's one of the biggest gifts I feel like I've gotten a chance to experience in life, to say, I'm just going to be present in this moment. Nothing else matters. This moment is the most important moment right now. And I'm grateful that I can say, are you being present or not?
Absolutely. I got to share with you, when you first got here, 10 minutes before the show, you came into the studio, you sat here. Our producer wasn't here yet. And the previous show, there was music and there was a lot of commercial because we had the overhead speakers really loud. And you and I, we instantly clicked, we connected, and we jumped into the moment that we were sharing together. And it was so amazing that I don't know if you realize that the music was really loud.
I didn't.
Yeah. And I had to, every once in a while, I would hear it and then have a thought like, I can't wait for Andrew to get here and lower the music. And I came back into the moment. So Andrew comes in, starts setting up, but he's not aware that the music's full blast. And you and me are in this conversation, like this, in the one moment in time, just like little kids having this dialogue, and we drowned it out, this loudspeaker that was playing overhead. And it just reminded me that happened literally 20 minutes ago. And we were just so in the moment that speaker, it didn't even matter. Whatever was coming out of there, we didn't even notice it because we were so locked in the present moment and really being there for each other and having that connection, which is pretty amazing. Yeah. Yeah.
I hadn't even noticed the music.
The next one I want to point out is you really have to continue your interpersonal growth.
Right.
You have to get down the road called evolved. You have to really get the emotional development that you need. And it's not just about being intellectual, because we can be intellectual human beings and have really a high IQ and really be struggling and suffering with the interpersonal breakthroughs that we really need to be fully well-rounded. And I think being evolved is really important when it comes to being a heartfelt leader, because your own interpersonal growth leads you down to a point in your journey where you no longer find the need to choose from fear anymore. And again, just like the other thing that we were talking about that constantly eludes you in your growth, so does evolvement. You never get there. It's just a journey that every stage you get to, it's almost like a video game, little goodies pop up that you just start to experience. They're like, oh my God, I'm here. So
I just got this new one, right?
Yeah. And so one of the goodies that pops up in that journey of constantly, consciously evolving is that fear slowly starts to not show up in your life, and you're not choosing from fear anymore.
Right.
And I think a heartfelt leader is so freed up from the fear-based choices that you start choosing from a place of service, and you start choosing from a place of win-win, and you start choosing from a place of, all right, let's make a choice that gets everybody excited, and it's a bigger choice rather than choosing from a place that all your fears has you making that choice because it's going to only serve you. Right.
Absolutely. And I would say, one of the things I've learned in creating evolvement, right? Let's just say evolvement, or being evolved is that I accept that I don't know what I don't know, that I would say lost the fear, right? I thought I needed to know everything, right? And if I didn't know a topic, then I felt inadequate, or I, started to feel insecure. And I've actually found security, as we were talking about earlier,
and not knowing,
and saying, hey, but I'm going to be honest with you. I'm going to tell you, I don't know what I don't know, and I'm okay with that. But that doesn't, but I'm also here to learn, right? And that there's a difference when you come from like knowing it all, right? Because then you're not even open to a different level of understanding.
That's right.
So I would say for me, part of my involvement has really been able to accept that I don't know what I don't know. And that doesn't mean that I'm less than or inadequate. It just means that I don't know it yet. That's it, right? And also to being open to a different level of understanding, of opportunities, and even compassion, to take that to that understanding to a different level. So absolutely, I would say losing the fear and like I needed to be perfect and I needed to look a certain kind of way has definitely shifted for me, and just knowing that it is okay to be in the process and the journey of growing and fully evolving. And that's one thing I will say too, is that I know that this is all a journey, right? And, the Dina that was last year is not the Dina that is now, right? And 10 years ago and 4 years ago, and those were key points in my life. And that's also awesome. That because I'm always going to continue to evolve. I'm always going to continue to grow and learn. So there's always going to be they say hindsight is 20/20, of course. So I can't wait for more hindsight.
Absolutely. When you were talking, I'm thinking about the distinction, because I don't want people to hear that when you're not choosing from fear that you're not afraid. Mm-hmm. You're still a human being, and you still are afraid, because if you're not afraid, it means you're not getting out of your comfort zone,
right,
and you're not growing. So there's a distinction between there's hundreds, if not thousands of times per year that I have to acknowledge my fear, choose to feel my fear, but not choose to make a choice from fear. Yeah. And a lot of times what helps you is getting either the clarity from either a mentor or a coach or someone else to remind you about how can you feel your fear and not choose from it, not make a decision for
and do it anyways, right?
but not choose from it such that it limits you or limits all other possibilities for anyone else.
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, one thing I want to point out to what you just said too was, I think also learning to ask for support, right? Like really asking for coaching, asking for feedback, asking for guidance is not, I didn't know how to do that for a very, very long time.
Neither did I.
I didn't know how to ask.
And I think it was my personality trait of a controller.
Right,
to
totally.
Not ask for help.
When you're like an A-type, you're like, no, I just handle it. I just do it. And I just, so I feel like I've been like that for a very long time. I mean, obviously most of my life, right? That it's taken a lot of, some time to get to the point and place to say, you know what? A different perspective would not hurt me.
That's right.
Right? Getting feedback on how I could potentially do this better would not hurt me. That doesn't mean anything against me. It's about building and developing, right? We're talking about evolving. It's about using whatever's available to become a better person. Why not? Like, why not? But I think in the past, maybe acknowledging that, I would have made myself wrong or judge myself like if I was inadequate versus leveling up.
Yeah.
Right now it's like, no, I'm going to ask because I want to level up versus like I'm missing something.
I love that. The next distinction I put down was focused. When it comes to being a heartfelt leader, your ability to focus is like a laser beam. Mm-hmm. And wherever you put your intention at or whatever you look at, you create more of it. Yeah. And there's pros and cons to that because when you're looking at a problem and you really are focused on the problem, you actually end up creating more of the problem.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
If you look at the problem for a moment to see what is needed or what it requires or what it's teaching you, and then get off of the problem and start putting your focus on the solution, you create more solutions and you create more opportunities that you didn't even know was possible. So I think when you're a heartfelt leader, you knowing how powerful you are as far as a human being and what you focus on is important, because you're either part of the problem or you're part of the solution. And I think it really depends on where you put those eyeballs on and what you're looking at.
Well, you know what that makes me think of? There's that concept of vision over circumstance, right? Where, it's where I think we can separate how we focus, right? If we focus on the circumstances and the environment, you're right, we're going to create more of those, right? Versus being able to say, like, this is the vision, this is the direction where I'm going. And yes, these are all of the circumstances around it, right? But where do I want to focus my energy, my attention? And it's being able to separate and say, choosing vision, right? Vision over circumstance. And not to say that that'll go away. It's there. But that's definitely something that is really important to be able to identify and choose, right? At the end, we go back to being able to choose. And therefore, you're going to continue with vision, not to say no more circumstances are going to come up. No, it'll be another level of circumstances, but it's choice to stay focused on the vision versus the circumstances.
And I think it's important as a leader, especially a heartfelt leader, when you have people on your team or people that you're leading or people that you're the voice of, when they come to you with their problems, I think it's important to validate or acknowledge for them that their problems are valid.
100%.
But you have to learn how to enroll them, how to get off of it, and let's get on to the solution. And it's a real, you got to use your heart to do that. Because if you use your head, it's very easy for them to make up a belief or an assumption that you're not listening to them and that you don't care about the problem.
Right.
So you got to be compassionate for, I hear
100%.
you. I hear you, Mike. And I too feel like that. However, the longer we stay on focusing on what the problem is, we're not solving it.
Yeah.
So how about you and me jump on this side and then they go, oh, got it.
Right.
So you have to teach people how to transfer that laser beam once you've solidified the conversation and validated that yes, it is a problem and it's not right and it's not fair. Now you got to enroll people and go, okay, now let's move that laser beam off to this side.
Well, right, and it's sometimes it's a conversation. What's more important to you?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So 100% we get to just...
What is more important to you? Is it to complain and cry and moan about what didn't happen? Or was that just the lead in to what I want to happen? Now let's have that conversation.
Right.
And I think for you, when you're going to be in front of people, you're going to have to delicately acknowledge that, the problem is important, and I get it's important to you, and you have to validate that for them. But then you have to learn how to transfer everybody onto, let's start talking about solutions because I'm ready now.
100%.
And then you're going to have to learn how to shift maybe a whole room.
Yeah.
Or a whole town or country or state.
Yeah.
Right?
And I would even say too, it's there's been a place where we get to look at, like, even sometimes the problem is not the problem. Right?
That's right.
There's something bigger.
You got to be open to that possibility.
Right. There's something bigger underlying the problem, right? I would say, let's look at it a little deeper. What is the actual problem, right? So we can actually address it. And then, too, it is a question of, like, is this more important than the direction that we're going into? And it typically is not, right? So, with some time and compassion, of course, I think compassion is a big piece that we get to be connected to each other and understanding of each other, and including in that understanding that we all have our different fears, right? And how do we, though, continue to develop it past the problem so we can get back to the vision of what we're up to?
Which leads me to the next one, which is you got to be a visionary. If you're a heartfelt leader, you have to be a dreamer.
Yeah.
You got to have dreams, and they got to be big. I think visionary is a huge word because it's someone who dreams big.
Yeah.
And your dream has to be big, like big changes about making a bigger difference in the world. And the dreams and the vision has to be constant. You have to constantly be having new visions. It's like people that are like like they think big, and it's like, okay, and then as soon as they rally everyone around that, you're like, no, now the idea got bigger for me, right? And it's just this constant process of dreaming and thinking big, but you also have to dare to have the audacity to believe that all of those are possible.
Yep.
And we got to go on another break.
Okay.
Man, I could do this.
I wanted to talk about audacity.
I can do this every day for a week, having this conversation with you.
Absolutely.
All right, stay tuned for more of the Alex Urbina radio show right here in your hometown station, KHTS.
Kyle, guess what's coming up?
It's the KHTS Home and Garden Show at Emergency Expo.
April 25th and 26th at Central Park.
Free admission.
Over one weekend, over 20,000 homeowners, Santa Clarita homeowners, visit this every single year.
It's one of the biggest home shows in not just Southern California, but California.
My favorite is the marketplace.
It's local craft stuff. It's awesome.
A lot of activities for the kids. They've got the petting zoo, pony rides, and brand new this year, the very first Strut Your Mutt dog show benefiting St. Bonnie's Animal Sanctuary. How cool is that? If you want to be a part of this, there is always room for your business.
That's true. And this is an opportunity that is like no other. You're going to get, like you just said, about 20,000 people over the weekend to come and check out your business. So there's still vendor opportunities available.
That's the only question I have. If a vendor is listening right now and they say to themselves, that's what I want to be a part of, now what?
You can call 298-1220, 298-1220, or go to scvhomeshow.com.
Santa Clarita, bedbugs are taking over our city. They've invaded our homes, our businesses, and most importantly, our sleep. If you have suspicious bites that appear nightly, or have a bug that you need ID'd, your best option is to make one call to All Pro. We offer a 100% guarantee that your bedbug issues will be solved with heat in one treatment. No need to tent or spray your house with chemicals. Heat is all you need. Call 661-298-2200 or text me a bug picture to 661-645-0540. It's time to sleep tight again, SCV.
The Art Gallery of Santa Clarita Artists Association, located in downtown Newhall on 6th Street between Railroad and Main, features local members' original artwork with changing exhibits every 2 months. Purchase affordable art for your home or as gifts. Open Friday through Sunday or by appointment. Artists wishing to join the SCAA can visit santaclaritaartist.org, come to our free monthly meetings at Barnes & Noble, or stop by the gallery. For upcoming shows, check us out at santaclaritaartist.org. We make visual art visible.
Coming to the Canyon, Santa Clarita, Jared Neiman, Buck Cherry, Julia Marley, Mark Cohen, Taj Mahal, John B., Air Supply, Herman Sermon starring Peter Noon, Big Bad Voodoo Daddy, The Dickies, TSOL, Kingdom Come and XYZ, English Beat, Queen Nation, Blood, Sweat and Tears, Berlin, and more. Country nights every Thursday. Join the Canyon for Valentine's Day for a Neil Diamond tribute by Fantastic Diamond. The Canyon is the perfect place to host special events, so call 818-661-7237 to book yours today. The Canyon, Santa Clarita, where music meets the soul. Tickets available through Ticketmaster.
Your hometown station, KHTS.
Show.
Right.
Welcome back to the Alex Urbina radio show right here in your hometown station, KHTS. Today we're talking about heartfelt leadership, and I'm in the studio with Dina Cervantes.
Hey, everyone.
We were talking before we went on the break about being a visionary.
Yeah.
And when I was in my early 20s, had my conscious awakening, and I got taught about leadership, found my heart, the first thing they taught me was a vision. And I remember thinking to myself, what do you mean a vision? I'm 23 years old, and they're talking about creating a vision so big that your vision is the direction that gets to draw you through your life journey. Mm-hmm. And I fell in love with that concept, and ever since then I've been creating grander visions of how I want to live my life. That's led me into so many different projects. It's incredible. It's a beautiful experience.
Yeah.
What does vision mean to you, and you being your own visionary?
I think, like you said,
and let's talk about what you're up to now today with your vision.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, like you said, like vision is what drives you, right? When you give yourself permission to be connected to your vision.
And the audacity, like we talked about, right?
Audacity to have a vision, right? Because,
like, how dare you think you can have a vision that big, right?
Right, and how like, who do you think you
That's
are?
Right. That's right.
That's totally...
Not from an arrogant place.
No.
But from a place of, why not?
Right.
And who else is going to do it?
Right. If not now, then when?
Yeah,
right.
Yeah. If I get one lifetime, let me just go for it.
Well, and that's what I actually tell people. I said, look, I have a lot of friends who believe in reincarnation. I said, I'm not there. I said, that would be great, but I don't know that that's true, and I don't, I'm not there. But so therefore, I have this life. Right. And I can at least guarantee what happens in this life. Right. And definitely vision, for a lot of different people, it's what drives them. And I say, when we give ourselves permission, because you have to give yourself permission to follow what you think is your innate vision. I have friends who are actors, who are singers, who, are just doing different things because they've given themselves permission to follow that calling. Right. For me, my calling has been service, and it's looked like a lot of different things. It started in church, right? I was a Sunday school teacher at one point. I was a preschool teacher, and I loved it. And I've been now an activist for about 18 years. And that's looked like for students, for higher education, for, school-age children, for hotel workers, for immigrants. It's just, for me, once I had maybe that moment where I found my voice and I found that I had a responsibility. Once I found my voice, I will say that, then I got that I got to show up and speak for those who weren't speaking up, right? The other thing that we didn't get a chance to talk about is I tell people I'm also what's possible when you don't give up on bad kids. I spent about almost 2.5 years of my high school time at a continuation. And
I read that.
Yeah. And
how inspiring is that?
And not because, like, I'm going to say the schools failed me. Like, there was just family issues. Right. And I ended up hanging out with the wrong crowd and people who were gang affiliated and doing things I shouldn't have. But again, I was looking for connection and validation and to be, and I felt like I wanted to be wanted, right? Because I wasn't getting that at home, unfortunately, in that time period. And I was able to, thank God for people who called me out and up and were like, what are you doing? You're smart, right? That helped me connect to what my calling was. And I always say it's service. And, at this moment in time, I'm pursuing a different level of service, which looks like I'm running for the California State Assembly here in Assembly District 38, which goes from Granada Hills to Simi Valley, and then from Granada Hills up to Castaic, Valencia, Newhall, Santa Clarita, Saugus. And it's because I that's what I feel has been my calling, and that I want to be in service and I want to be able to contribute. And there's a lot of things that we're experiencing right now in the state of California that I would love to be able to be in contribution. And I say this all the time when we go do forums and stuff. I said, look, I'm a different possibility. I've been someone who's literally I've had to build myself up from nothing. Right. I have, my parents were immigrants from Fresno. Now we're business owners. We own a home. We've been able to achieve what people call the American dream. Right. I'm a small business owner now myself. And I want to be able to, represent those that feel unheard, because and not only represent, but also support other people in finding their voice and their contribution. So at the state level, for me, that looks like strengthening education. There's nothing more that I feel that we can do for California than to make sure that we have a strong education system from pre-K through higher ed. That doesn't always look like, getting a degree. That looks like vocational training. That means that we empower entrepreneurism. We have a huge trend going in that direction. That also looks like we address the homelessness crisis and the lack of home affordability, and especially also in this district. Unfortunately, I live half a block from an encampment, and we had 2 members of our homeless community pass away last week. And there's now little visuals for them. But I think about dignity. People get to have dignity in life. Outside of that, our environment, we get to protect our environment. We are now a district that faces fires every year. How are we supporting our community before, during, and after? So those are the things that are really important to me outside of protecting our natural resources. But going back to vision, as we're in this really tight race, that has brought up amazing opportunities, really great endorsements. But, really looking at, it's the vision to serve. It's really my vision to serve that's driving this crazy journey for me now.
I love it. You remind me of a true fighter, but you fight with your heart out on your sleeve. Mm-hmm. And I know with the awakening, the conscious awakening you had and the heartfelt leadership that you're developing in yourself, that you're going to do it not in a nasty way, the way we've been watching a lot of politicians, but just doing it from a place of finding your voice, harnessing your true power, and being out there making a difference. How can we support what you're up to? How can we rally around you and make sure it happens?
So you can go to my website. It's Dina, Dina Cervantes, CERVANTES.com. I'm on Instagram, on Facebook, and get connected. We have 11 days towards Election Day, and it's going to be amazing. We're going to do some amazing work, so we're almost there.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you.
Thank you.
KHTS.